Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. I'm Amy Shannon, but you can call me Amy. Thank you for listening. Hello and welcome, and I hope all is well with you. I'm Amy, and today I'm talking about Talia Haven's books. One is called Delete, and the other one has just been released. Is called a Cautionary Tale. Actually, Delete has also been recently published, and it was actually the third place winner in the Amy's Bookshelf Reviews short story contest. So I enjoyed this book very much, and so I'm going to talk about Delete first. It's pretty interesting. I like how, she told the story, and it made it so interesting that you just kind of wanted to know, what was going on, what was in her life that, just made it so interesting. It was recently released on at the end of July, and the book description that she has is: when the corporation that she works for goes against her morals, Bev must make a life-changing decision. Yes, it's a short read, and it is amazing because, as I said, it was one of those books one of those stories that it kept you on the edge of your seat. And I had 3 great winners of that short story contest, and probably I will run more contests maybe in the upcoming year. So without further ado, I'm going to read just a little bit of Talia Haven's story called Delete. Surrounded by other cubicles, Bev sat at her workstation, oblivious to the sound of the constant clicking keys. This day was no different than any of her other work days. She barely heard the occasional bleeps that drew her fellow workers' attention to important messages. Overhead, dim lights shone down, cutting the glare of the computer screens. Click, 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 the steady flow of information going straight to the major systems, a eukaryotic. Eukaryotic was the ultra-modern, a major upgrade, and the newest AI system available. The apparatus was able to do, once commanded, the work of 3 scientists. It regularly received a flow of commands, facts, codes, and deletions, running what was once inputted in its processor, manipulating it into information that she and others would need as they moved it from file to file. Many projects matured to move on to the beginning experiences code. Other projects were canceled for some unknown reason only days after someone had started them. A persistent beep let Bev know that the new message on the screen, new message at the bottom of the screen. Bev, one of the oldest employees in the group, tucked stray brown bangs and streaked with brassy gray hair behind her ear, and clicked continue. She had a little while before it was time to leave. A new folder, another assignment. A single click on the link revealed Project 47953, Hillenbrand/Wyeth. Another double click on the file revealed that the new job was to be female. 2 double helix code files for Hildenbrand and Wyeth appeared on the blue screen. Bev opened both files. Studying the polynucleide chain, she selected the appropriate data and uploaded it, and let the eukaryotic program run. In the procreation room, the future parents' donations for Project 47953/Hildenbrand/Wyeth was prepared. One single donated ovum with just its X chromosomes left in the millions of the XX sperm. Both donations, pre-stripped of their genetic DNA, was released into a single germinal sac. Artificial Sterile artificial amniotic fluid, enhanced with nutrients and antibodies, warmed to body temperature, received the blend of human cells. So I'm going to leave you with that. And again, that was Delete, and it's pretty amazing. And I can't say enough about how much I've actually enjoyed that story. It's one of those things that you just, it just brings you right in. So, the next story of Talia Haven's that I'm going to read is one that was just released the end of August. So this is, as of this reading, this is her latest story, and it's called A Cautionary Tale. And the description: a photo sent as a text has unforeseen consequences. So that sounds very interesting. And I'm just scrolling to get back to chapter 1. Okay, so forgive my unedited podcasts. I don't, I'm myself, so if I had to re-record every time I made a mistake, then I would never get any podcast done. And I enjoy that. It's me talking about your work, talking about my work, talking about other books. It's something that I really enjoy. So, I'm a real person. This isn't an AI. I make mistakes. I stutter sometimes. So, and moving on to A Cautionary Tale, I'm going to start with chapter 1. This is a cautionary tale. Now, I know what you're thinking. There's so many tales out there. What could I possibly tell you that hasn't already been cautioned about before? The past is littered with them. So is the present. Society has tales of murder. You really shouldn't do that. I can proudly say that I never have. Theft. You really shouldn't do that either. However, this certain sin, I would have to confess to. Shoplifting, mostly. Greed. Yeah, we've arrived to the reason for my cautionary tale. Good old greed. Even though murder is a sin, it's not listed as one of the 7 deadly sins. Theft, however, is one of them, as well as lust. But my promiscuous past is something that I won't be getting into. Sorry about that. Okay, so now you're thinking to yourself, greed, will this be a story about a Ponzi scheme? Nope, not smart enough to put one together. High stakes gambling? Tried it. Well, in all honesty, it was actually low stake penny slots, but I did lose a lot of money. Damn those one-armed bandits. Drug smuggling? How about small-time drug dealing? Guilty. Just enough to get me arrested and do some jail time. Smuggling, I'm not that brave, and you've got to admit that if I had done it and it happened to get caught while out of the country, my butt would have definitely ended up in a foreign prison, and foreign prisons are, well, kind of scary. There are lots of other assorted things. We could go through the extremely long list of other assorted things, but I, for the sake of time, and not boring you with all the other types of greed, will get right to the point. A tip. Yep, you read that right, a tip. In all honesty, it was an offer of money, not a lot I might add, that I should really have walked away from. But at the time, I was close to having my lights turned off, so you can understand how greed kicked in. Keeping the lights on is a big event in my limited financial world. So let's start at the beginning and let me introduce myself. I'm Robin Anita Hill, a native of Ohio. I, in fact, still live in that great state. Go Buckeyes. Sorry to throw one out to the team. Born in the 1950s, never mind what year, it's not necessary for you to know how old I am for me to tell you this story. High school dropout, so I never had any job above unskilled. In my younger years, I did a lot of jobs for cash under the table, Babysitting was one of them. Huge mistake, by the way, but that's also another story. In all those years when I was doing all my cash shenanigans, I was just too poor to pay the state and federal government their unfair share. And to be frankly honest, I'm still too poor to pay the state and federal government their unfair share. You know the old saying, one paycheck from being homeless. I have experienced that, and by the way, being homeless. Fortunately, the kids were grown when that happened, but that's yet another story. So, this book, it's a short read. It's actually it just grabbed my attention. And I do like the cover of the story, the book cover. It's pretty cool, and it makes you think about, you never judge a book by its cover, but sometimes just looking at the cover and seeing how grand it is, it makes you wonder, okay, what is going on behind that title? Especially with something like this, because it shows the back of a woman and what looks like a license plate, and the title of the story, a cautionary tale, on the license plate, and what looks like it's either colored in blood or red paint. I'm guessing blood, but you have to read the whole story to kind of figure it out. So, again, it's all about like telling stories and being able to share your work with others, and writing short stories is actually pretty tough to consider when you're writing against versus a novel, because you have to pack a lot of details in a story and make sure the story is complete. And I'm not talking about novellas that are, created into sections based off a full-length novels book, because some people do that. They release novellas piece by piece, and then they'll, once they release the last one, they'll release the book as a whole. So that is something that is interesting, and that you could bring a way to share the stories, but the short story, and it doesn't matter, they call it, could be a novella, flash fiction. Those are really short, probably 1 or 2 pages of a short story. There are guidelines for word counts and things like that, but really, when you're writing, word count is the least that you should be thinking about. You're writing your story. You want to make sure it makes sense. The characters are, they're not cookie cutter characters, and they are full of depth. They have their own individual personalities. Sometimes the setting itself is a character, and because that also affects how other people or how people react. You could write a story about a blizzard, but you want to make sure that where this blizzard, unless it's a freak blizzard, happens, in a place where it would actually snow, or earthquakes, or floods or hurricanes. There's a lot of ways that setting is something. I've written stories that they take place in a fictional town, but it's in Arizona. So I do make references to the desert and how dry the things are, and also things that are known to grow in Arizona. So yes, creating a story, creating a short story, it does take a lot of work. And just because it's short doesn't mean that it's not full of information and great characters and a great plot or even having subplots. I've been having to write my own short stories rather than doing full-length novels. And sometimes I have to walk away from something and then go back to it. I'm working on one now and have been working on it for several months, and I've written several short stories in between that as well. And I keep going back to it because I like it. And I really can't wait to see how it ends. And sometimes the story ends up going in a way that you just, as an author, you don't plan for. So I recommend that, if you're a novel writer and you've never written a short story, try it. Just see what happens, because they're not as easy to write just because they're short. You have to get a lot of information into the story. And I bring this up because most of Talia Haven's work is short stories. She does have some full-length novels, like The House of the Jobless Gods, which I talked about in a previous episode. And, it's about... And there's so many other people that can write short stories, and I think that they're becoming popular again. People are writing their own short stories. And they're publishing them as short stories, individual digital files, and then they also put together an anthology of their short stories, and where you could get all of them in one place. So I find that quite interesting and intriguing, and it's probably something that I will do. I grouped some of my short stories on Amazon as Amy's Short Story Collection, where the stories have nothing to do with each other, but just that they're short stories. And I am thinking about creating an anthology, but also adding some short stories that I have yet to publish. So those might, pull in some readers, and we'll see what happens. But anyways, I'm hoping sometime early next year to have another short story contest. I have talked about it in August, about the short story winners, and I hope to have that for something interesting, and we'll see what happens next year and see where I'm at. Anyway, excuse me. At the time of I'm recording this, I still have pneumonia, and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. But anyways, I am waking up every day, and where I have to relax, I've been doing a lot of reading. So anyways, moving forward, if you're an author who wants your book or one of your characters to be on the show, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast for more information. If you're an author and want your book to be reviewed, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com for more information. Please feel free to subscribe to my website, where you'll get all the great email campaigns and blog posts about authors, their books, and my recommendation. You might just be lucky, as I am, to find that hidden gem that keeps you reading work of your new favorite author. Be well and be safe. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an episode. Thank you, and I'll talk to you next week. This has been Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Thank you for listening. And always, be kind and stay safe. Thank you.